the year 1967. San Francisco pulsated with the psychedelic rhythms of the Summer of Love, a time of cultural upheaval and unbridled optimism. Young people flocked to Haight-Ashbury, transforming the neighborhood into a kaleidoscope of tie-dye and utopian dreams. Yet, beneath this countercultural revolution, a darkness was brewing. The Zodiac Killer, a shadowy figure shrouded in mystery, emerged from this tumultuous era, his reign of terror a stark contrast to the era's message of peace and love. The Zodiac Killer's use of ciphers was more than just a macabre signature. It was a window into his psyche. He understood the allure of the unknown, the primal fear that grips the human heart when confronted with the unintelligible. His ciphers were a way to instill terror on a mass scale, to make the public complicit in his twisted game. Each carefully crafted cipher, often mailed to newspapers alongside chilling threats, was a meticulously planned move in his deadly game. He seemed to relish the media frenzy that followed each communication. The Zodiac Killer was not just a murderer, he was a showman, a master manipulator who understood the power of the press and the public's fascination with the macabre. The Zodiac Killer, despite his brazen crimes and public taunts, has never been definitively identified. The case remains cold, a testament to the killer's cunning and the limitations of forensic science at the time. The lack of closure has haunted the families of the victims, denied them the justice they deserve. The Zodiac case continues to fascinate and terrify. It has spawned countless books, documentaries, and armchair detectives, all hoping to crack the code and identify the killer. The killer's ability to evade capture has elevated him to almost mythical status, a boogeyman who continues to haunt the American psyche. December 20th, 1968. A Friday night. The air was thick with the smell of pine needles and damp earth, as a chilly breeze swept across Lake Herman Road. Nestled in the rolling hills east of Vallejo, California, the isolated stretch of asphalt was a popular lover's lane. On this particular night, a young couple, David Faraday and Betty Lou Jensen, sought refuge in this secluded spot, their car parked discreetly amidst the trees. Section 2. The First Victims. A sudden flash of light, the deafening roar of a gunshot shattered the stillness of the night. The bullet, fired from close range, tore through the thin metal of David's car door, lodging itself in his back. Betty Lou screamed, a primal shriek of terror that was cut short as another shot rang out. The killer, his face hidden in the shadows, moved with a chilling calmness. The once peaceful lover's lane was now a scene of unspeakable horror. David, his body riddled with bullets, lay slumped over the steering wheel. Betty Lou, her eyes forever frozen in a mask of terror, lay sprawled on the ground a few feet away. The killer, his thirst for blood momentarily satiated, melted back into the darkness, leaving behind a trail of carnage and unanswered questions. Section 3. Whispers in the Wind. Fear, like a dense fog, settled over Vallejo and the surrounding areas. The murders at Lake Herman Road were not just another crime. They were a horrifying anomaly. Parents kept their children close, their hearts heavy with worry. Lovers' lanes, once symbols of youthful romance, were now viewed with suspicion. The unknown killer, his motive shrouded in mystery, had become a terrifying enigma. Rumors and speculation spread like wildfire, fueled by the lack of concrete information and the media's relentless coverage of the case. Every stranger was viewed with suspicion, every unusual occurrence interpreted as a potential clue. The killer, by virtue of his elusiveness, had become a blank canvas onto which people projected their deepest fears. He was a boogeyman, a monster lurking in the shadows, waiting to strike again when least expected. Section 4. The puzzle begins. Just when the initial shock and horror of the Lake Herman Road murders began to subside, a chilling new development sent shivers down the spines of investigators and the public alike. On August 1st, 1969, almost 8 months after the first killings, 3 letters, penned in the same erratic handwriting, arrived at the offices of 3 California newspapers. Each letter contained a chilling message, a macabre claim of responsibility for the murders of David Faraday and Betty Lou Jensen. But what truly set these letters apart were the ciphers. Each letter contained a portion of a 3-part cipher, a seemingly random assortment of symbols and letters that the author claimed contained his true identity. The writer, now referring to himself as Zodiac, issued a chilling ultimatum: publish the ciphers in their entirety or face his wrath. The ciphers, a perplexing puzzle that captivated and terrified the nation, became a focal point of the investigation. Cryptographers and code breakers from law enforcement agencies and universities across the country were brought in. The public, hungry for any information that might lead to the killer's capture, followed the case with morbid fascination. The Zodiac Killer, through his cryptic communication, had transformed his murderous spree into a twisted game, a battle of wits against law enforcement and the public. The weight of the Zodiac's challenge pressed heavily on the shoulders of investigators. The ciphers, a tangled web of symbols and letters, became an obsession. Every waking moment was consumed by the cryptic messages, the team poring over each character, each line break, searching for a pattern, a clue, anything that could unravel the killer's identity. The pressure was immense, fueled by the knowledge that lives hung in the balance. Each passing day without a breakthrough brought with it the chilling possibility that the Zodiac would claim another victim. The ciphers were unlike anything they had encountered before. The killer had not used any known code or cipher system in its entirety. Instead, he seemed to have crafted his own, borrowing elements from various sources, incorporating misdirection, and leaving false trails like a cunning hunter laying a trap. It was a game of cat and mouse, a battle of intellect against a cunning and elusive adversary who seemed to be always one step ahead. Days turned into weeks, and the pressure mounted. The team worked around the clock, fueled by coffee and adrenaline, their eyes bloodshot from staring at the cryptic messages. They explored every possible angle, from cryptography textbooks to ancient languages, hoping to find a key that would unlock the secrets hidden within the ciphers. False leads and dead ends led to frustration and despair, but the team refused to give up. After weeks of tireless effort, a breakthrough finally arrived. Not from the halls of law enforcement or a prestigious university, but from a seemingly ordinary couple, Donald and Betty Harden. Working from their kitchen table, driven by a mix of curiosity and a desire to help, they cracked the 408-character cipher, revealing a chilling message. The Zodiac, it turned out, craved not just blood but recognition, his ego as monstrous as his deeds. The message, devoid of any remorse or empathy, sent chills down the spines of those who read it. It was a stark reminder of the depravity of the killer's mind, his utter disregard for human life. The words, "I like killing people because it is so much fun," were not the ravings of a madman, but a calculated statement. The Zodiac was not driven by a need for revenge or personal gain, but by a twisted desire for infamy. The decoded message, while providing a disturbing window into the killer's psyche, offered little in the way of concrete clues to his identity. The Zodiac Killer, in his twisted game of death and riddles, didn't limit his communication to ciphers and letters. He adopted a chilling symbol, a circle with a crosshair extending beyond its circumference, a mark that would become synonymous with terror and unsolved mystery. This symbol, scrawled on letters etched into victims' cars, and even incorporated into his costume during one attack, served as a macabre calling card. The choice of the symbol itself was as enigmatic as the killer himself. Some speculated it represented a celestial crosshair, linking the killer to astrology. Others saw it as a more primal symbol, a representation of a hunter and his prey. Whatever the true meaning, the symbol became an enduring image of the Zodiac case. The Zodiac seemed to revel in the attention his symbol garnered. He incorporated it into his letters, often placing it prominently at the top. He understood the power of symbols, their ability to evoke fear, to command attention, and to create a lasting impression. The Zodiac symbol, through its association with his horrific crimes, became a source of terror, a constant reminder that the killer was out there, watching, waiting, and choosing his next victims. Section 4. False hope and frustration. The investigation stalls. Despite the initial breakthrough of the 408-character cipher, the investigation into the Zodiac Killer's identity hit a wall. The killer, as if toying with the authorities, continued to send letters and cryptic messages. Leads were chased down, witnesses were questioned, and potential suspects were investigated. But the Zodiac always seemed to be one step ahead. The pressure on the investigators mounted with each passing day. The public, initially captivated by the mystery, grew increasingly frustrated with the lack of progress. The media, sensing the public's impatience, scrutinized every move the police made, their coverage of the case often bordering on the sensational. The Zodiac, it seemed, had become a media darling, his every cryptic message, every gruesome act, feeding a public appetite for both information and fear. False leads and dead ends became commonplace. Tip lines were flooded with calls, many from well-meaning citizens convinced they had seen the killer or had deciphered a hidden message in his letters. September 27, 1969. A warm breeze rustled the leaves of the trees surrounding the tranquil shores of Lake Berryessa. The air was alive with the sounds of nature, birds chirping merrily, the gentle lapping of water against the shore, and the distant laughter of picnicking families. The sun, high in a cloudless sky, cast a golden glow upon the lake. It was a picture-perfect autumn day, a scene of idyllic tranquility that belied the darkness that was about to unfold. Among the many seeking solace and recreation that day were Cecilia Shepherd and Brian Hartnell. They had chosen a secluded spot on the northern shore of the lake, spreading their blanket beneath the shade of a sprawling oak tree. As they unpacked their picnic basket, their laughter mingled with the gentle breeze, their conversation filled with the hopes and dreams of youth, oblivious to the sinister shadow that was about to fall upon their idyllic afternoon. Cecilia, her senses heightened by a primal instinct, was the first to notice the approaching figure. Her smile faded, replaced by a look of confusion, then fear. Before she could react, the figure was upon them. His voice, a calm and chilling monotone, cut through the peaceful sounds of the afternoon. He identified himself as an escaped convict, his words carefully chosen to disarm and instill fear. Cecilia and Brian, their hearts pounding in their chests, were frozen in place. He ordered them to move, his tone brooking no argument, his hand hovering menacingly near the gun tucked into his waistband. Fear, raw and consuming, propelled them forward, their eyes darting between their captor and the dense undergrowth surrounding them. He bound their hands with the pre-cut lengths of clothesline, his movements practiced and efficient. Their pleas for mercy, muffled by the gags he had forced into their mouths, fell on deaf ears. The Zodiac, his face hidden behind the emotionless mask of the hood, seemed to derive a perverse pleasure from their terror. He forced them to lie face down on the ground, the coolness of the earth a stark contrast to the inferno of fear that raged within them. The serenity of the late afternoon was pierced by the shrill ring of a telephone.
Inside the Napa County Sheriff's Department, a dispatcher, startled by the sudden noise, answered the call, her voice laced with practiced professionalism.
What she heard on the other end of the line sent chills down her spine, her blood turning to ice as a chillingly calm voice, devoid of emotion, recounted a tale of unimaginable horror.
The caller, identifying himself simply as the Zodiac, confessed to the brutal attack at Lake Berryessa, his words dripping with a casual arrogance that defied the gravity of his crimes.
He described the attack in chilling detail, his words painting a vivid and terrifying picture of the scene at Lake Berryessa.
He spoke of the couple, their pleas for mercy, and the brutal efficiency with which he had carried out his attack.
He seemed to relish in the retelling, his voice betraying a perverse sense of pride in his handiwork.
The dispatcher, her mind racing, her hand trembling as she made frantic notes, recognized the voice instantly.
It was the same voice, the same chillingly calm demeanor that had taunted them from the pages of the Zodiac's letters.
As quickly as it had begun, the call ended, the caller leaving the dispatcher with a final chilling message. "I gotta go now."
The once idyllic shores of Lake Berryessa, now bathed in the eerie glow of flashing police lights, were transformed into a chaotic scene of controlled urgency.
Paramedics, their faces grim, worked frantically to stabilize Cecilia and Brian, their bodies bearing the horrific testament of the Zodiac's brutality.
Every second counted, every heartbeat a victory against the long odds stacked against them.
But even as they fought to save the young couple's lives, a chilling realization settled over the crime scene. The Zodiac had vanished, melting back into the shadows as effortlessly as he had appeared, leaving behind a trail of blood and terror.
Despite a massive manhunt, despite the deployment of every available resource, the Zodiac remained frustratingly elusive.
The investigation, hampered by a lack of physical evidence and the killer's meticulous planning, seemed to hit a dead end at every turn.
October 27th, 1970. As the crisp autumn air carried the scent of decaying leaves and the anticipation of Halloween mischief, a chill far more sinister than any ghost story settled over the San Francisco Chronicle newsroom. Amongst the usual deluge of letters, a particularly ominous envelope addressed in a chillingly familiar hand caught the eye of a mail clerk. It was a Halloween card, its festive facade a cruel mockery of the terror it contained, its message a stark reminder that the Zodiac Killer was still out there, his shadow looming large over a city already on edge. The card itself was simple, almost childish in its design, but the message it carried was anything but innocent. A blood-red Scorpio symbol, the killer's astrological sign, dominated the front. Its presence a chilling reminder of the Zodiac's fascination with astrology and his belief in his own cosmic significance. Section 2. Symbols of Terror. Deciphering the card's message. The arrival of the Halloween card, while terrifying in its implications, also presented investigators with a new puzzle to solve, a fresh set of clues that they hoped might lead them closer to the identity of the elusive killer. The card itself, beyond its chilling message, contained several curious elements that the investigators meticulously analyzed, hoping to glean any insight into the killer's psyche or his next move. Most prominently, the card featured a new cipher, a complex arrangement of symbols and letters, different from the ones the Zodiac had used in his previous communications. This 340-character cipher, unlike the previous ones that had been cracked, remained unsolved for decades, its secrets taunting investigators, fueling speculation, and becoming a source of endless fascination for amateur sleuths and armchair detectives. Beyond the cipher, the card contained a number of seemingly random symbols and drawings. A circled 13 hinted at a possible body count, further fueling the mystery surrounding the true number of the Zodiac's victims. A crude drawing of a bomb, reminiscent of a child's doodle, served as a chilling reminder of the killer's threat. Section 3. The Shadow of Doubt, Red Herrings and False Confessions. As the investigation into the Zodiac Killer dragged on, years turning into decades, the case became a magnet for attention seekers, conspiracy theorists, and individuals claiming to have inside knowledge of the killer's identity.
The lack of a definitive suspect, combined with the Zodiac's notoriety and the media frenzy surrounding the case, created a fertile ground for speculation and false leads, each one diverting precious resources and adding to the already immense weight of the unsolved mystery.
The police were inundated with tips, letters and phone calls, many from well-meaning citizens convinced they had seen the Zodiac or had deciphered a hidden message in his communications. Others, seeking their 15 minutes of fame, or perhaps harboring a morbid fascination with the case, fabricated stories, claiming to be the killer or to have inside knowledge of his identity. Each lead, no matter how improbable, had to be investigated, leading down countless dead ends and fueling the public's insatiable appetite for any scrap of information related to the case.
Adding to the confusion were a number of high-profile suspects. Individuals who, for various reasons, became focal points of the investigation, only to be later cleared due to lack of evidence or conflicting alibis. Arthur Lee Allen, a former schoolteacher with a history of disturbing behavior and a passing resemblance to a police sketch, became a prime suspect for many years, but DNA evidence ultimately ruled him out.
Section 4. The Unsolved Enigma. The Zodiac's Final Taunt. Following the Halloween card, the Zodiac Killer's reign of terror seemed to abruptly end. Despite his chilling promise of further violence, no new victims were definitively linked to the case. His communication, once a steady stream of taunting letters and cryptic messages, dwindled to a trickle, his voice fading into the background noise of a city trying to heal from the trauma he had inflicted. A letter, received by the San Francisco Chronicle in January 1974, marked what is widely considered to be the Zodiac's last confirmed communication. The letter, written in his familiar erratic handwriting, contained his usual mix of boasts, threats, and cryptic symbols. He claimed responsibility for a recent unsolved murder, although this claim was never substantiated. He expressed admiration for the film The Exorcist, its themes of demonic possession seemingly resonating with his own twisted worldview. Ghosts in the Machine, the digital hunt for the Zodiac. The dawn of the digital age cast a new light on the cold case files of the Zodiac Killer, transforming the once localized investigation into a global pursuit of answers. Internet forums buzzed with theories. Amateur sleuths from around the world huddled in virtual chat rooms, dissecting evidence, debating interpretations of the ciphers, and chasing down digital rabbit holes in pursuit of the killer's true identity. The case, once relegated to dusty archives and the fading memories of those who had lived through its terror, found new life in the digital realm. The Zodiac's cryptic messages, once the exclusive domain of government cryptographers and academic code breakers, became the playground of a new generation of digital detectives armed with sophisticated software and a collective determination to crack the codes that had baffled investigators for decades. Section 2. Cracking the 340, a new millennium, a new hope. In December 2020, over half a century after the Zodiac Killer's reign of terror began, a glimmer of hope emerged from the seemingly impenetrable darkness of the unsolved case. A team of 3 amateur code breakers, a software engineer from Virginia, a Belgian computer programmer, and an Australian mathematician, announced that they had finally cracked the Zodiac's infamous 340-character cipher, a puzzle that had baffled experts and fueled speculation for over 5 decades. Their breakthrough, achieved using a combination of advanced code-breaking software and countless hours of dedicated effort, sent shockwaves through the world of true crime and ignited a renewed sense of hope for a long-awaited resolution. The decoded message, while chilling in its content, did not reveal the killer's identity, as many had hoped. Instead, it provided further insight into his twisted psyche, his delusions of grandeur, and his desire to taunt the authorities. The message, riddled with misspellings and grammatical errors, contained boasts about his crimes, taunts directed at the police, and a bizarre claim that he was not afraid of the gas chamber because it would only make him stronger in the afterlife. Section 3. The Legacy of Fear, the Zodiac's Enduring Grip. The Zodiac Killer, though his reign of terror ended decades ago, his physical presence, relegated to grainy photographs and police sketches, continues to cast a long shadow over American culture. His story, a macabre blend of true crime and unsolved mystery, has become ingrained in the nation's collective consciousness, inspiring countless books, films, documentaries, and works of fiction. The case, with its chilling details, cryptic messages, and enduring mystery, has become a cultural touchstone, a source of both fascination and fear, its grip on the public imagination as strong as ever. The Zodiac's enduring legacy is a testament to the power of the unknown, the human fascination with evil, and the enduring allure of unsolved mysteries. His crimes, though brutal and senseless, tapped into a primal fear, a sense of vulnerability that resonated with a nation grappling with social upheaval, political assassinations, and the escalating horrors of the Vietnam War. The Zodiac, with his cryptic messages, his taunting of the authorities, and his ability to vanish without a trace, became a symbol of the chaos and uncertainty of the times, a boogeyman lurking in the shadows of a nation struggling to find its way. In the shadow of the cipher, a monster's echo. The Zodiac Killer, despite the passage of time, the advancements in forensic technology, and the tireless efforts of investigators, remains an enigma, his true identity a question mark etched into the annals of criminal history. He exists now as a collection of ciphers, letters, police sketches, and the fading memories of those who lived through the terror he inflicted. He is a ghost, a whisper in the wind, a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface of even the most seemingly civilized society. His legacy, however, extends far beyond the unsolved murders and the chilling ciphers. He changed the way we view serial killers, transforming them from faceless monsters into cunning adversaries, masters of manipulation who could control the narrative and exploit the media to further their own twisted agendas. The Zodiac Killer, though his reign of terror was relatively brief, left an indelible scar on the American psyche, a wound that continues to ache even decades after his final confirmed communication. He shattered the illusion of safety and innocence that pervaded the late 1960s, reminding a nation grappling with social and political upheaval that darkness could lurk even in the most idyllic of settings. His crimes, brutal and seemingly random, targeted not just individuals but the very fabric of society, leaving a legacy of fear and uncertainty that seeped into the collective consciousness. The Zodiac's ability to evade capture, to disappear into thin air after each attack, only amplified the terror he inflicted. He became a phantom, a boogeyman lurking in the shadows, his presence felt but unseen, his next move a terrifying mystery. The public, bombarded with news reports, police sketches and the killer's own cryptic messages, became both captivated and terrified, their imaginations running wild with speculation and fear. The line between fact and fiction blurred, every stranger a potential suspect, every secluded spot a potential crime scene. The Zodiac Killer, despite his best efforts to fade into obscurity, to become a ghost story whispered in hushed tones, has instead achieved a twisted form of immortality. His crimes, his cryptic messages, and his ability to elude capture have captivated the public imagination for decades, his story becoming a staple of true crime documentaries, podcasts, and fictionalized accounts. The case, with its chilling details and enduring mystery, continues to fascinate and horrify, its grip on our collective psyche as strong as ever. The enduring allure of the Zodiac case can be attributed to a complex interplay of factors. The unsolved nature of the crimes, the lack of a definitive answer to the question of who done it, fuels endless speculation and invites armchair detectives to try their hand at cracking the codes, analysing the evidence and piecing together the puzzle. Lost in the labyrinth of ciphers, the endless debates over potential suspects, and the cultural fascination with the Zodiac Killer, it is easy to forget that at the heart of this enduring mystery lies a profound human tragedy. The victims, whose lives were brutally cut short or forever altered by the killer's actions, are often relegated to footnotes in the larger narrative, their stories overshadowed by the enigma of their assailant. But for the families and loved ones left behind, the pain of their loss remains a constant presence, a wound that refuses to heal, compounded by the lack of closure, the absence of justice. The families of the Zodiac's victims have endured a unique kind of torment, forced to live with the knowledge that the person responsible for their loved ones' deaths has never been held accountable. They have navigated a labyrinth of dead-end leads, false confessions, and tantalizing clues that ultimately led nowhere. The Zodiac Killer, though his reign of terror ended decades ago, his shadow no longer looms as large over the streets of San Francisco. The city, known for its resilience, its ability to reinvent itself, has moved on, the fear and uncertainty of that era fading into the fog of time. But the memory of the Zodiac lingers, a ghost light flickering in the city's collective consciousness, a reminder of a time when darkness descended upon its streets, leaving an indelible mark on its history. The Zodiac case, for all its unresolved questions and lingering mysteries, forced San Francisco to confront its vulnerabilities, to acknowledge the darkness that can fester even in the most enlightened of cities. It prompted changes in law enforcement, advances in forensic science, and a heightened awareness of the potential for evil to lurk in the most unexpected places. And while the scars of that era may still linger, they have also served as a catalyst for growth, resilience, and a renewed appreciation for the fragility of peace and the importance of community. The Zodiac Killer, despite his best efforts to instill fear and sow chaos, ultimately failed in his quest to break the spirit of San Francisco. The city, forged in the fires of adversity, emerged from the shadow of the Zodiac stronger, more united and more determined than ever to embrace its vibrant spirit, its unwavering belief in the power of hope, and its enduring capacity for love in the face of darkness. The Zodiac Killer may have faded into the annals of history, his true identity a mystery that may never be solved, but his story continues to resonate, not just in San Francisco, but across the nation and around the world. It serves as a cautionary tale, a reminder of the fragility of peace, the importance of vigilance, and the enduring power of the human spirit to overcome adversity, to seek justice, and to find hope even in the darkest of times.